What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we are going to be going through some tips and some helpful hints for you guys for starting your ultimate team for FIFA 21. Now, even if you are a returning viewer for some of my streams and for my videos, these are still helpful hints for both people like that and for new people to Ultimate Team as well. So either way, make sure to like and subscribe so then you guys can get more tips and hints about formations, tactics, player reviews, and things of the sort. So without further ado, let's get into the video, and here are some 6 tips for you guys to help start your ultimate team. Tip number 1 is to look at some of the cheaper leagues when you are buying your players for your starter team. I know we all want to use some of the major leagues mainly because they have some of the best players to eventually upgrade to, and also they also have some of the best depth as well. However, if you go from league to league, you may find some hidden gems. For example, Mbabu versus Male. So we all know that Mbabu was one of the more overpowered players last year, especially near the start of the game. I mean, if you just look at his card, right, he has over 90 pace, great physical. His defending isn't necessarily most important, being at right back. 6 foot, high medium, just good all around stats, especially for a starter right back. Looking at his price, he was hovering around 9k, even upwards of 11.5k at the start of FIFA 20. If we compare that to a right back that is from the Belgian league, first off, you'll see that their stats are incredibly similar. Same pace, 1 less defending, 2 less physical, so obviously not that big of a deal there. He also has 1 more dribbling than him. He's also 6 foot and he has high work rate. So essentially, it's even technically a better card because of the work rates, because in-game stats are so similar. Now, if we take a look at his price in the first few months of FIFA, his highest was only 2.5k, and that was only for about a day. Otherwise, it stayed at about less than 1,000 for a long period of time. So you essentially get an Mbabu card for way less, for essentially a fraction of the price. Obviously, when it comes to these lower leagues, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to link them and to use players you actually want to use. But if you go from league to league, if you go and see what leagues offer certain players, there's always going to be like 1, 2, maybe even 3 leagues that have some really underrated players that you can use in your starter team. Tip number 2 is to make sure you are looking at the in-game stats of the players that you want to buy. Some cards are going to be a little bit misleading when it comes to the face stats on their card, and other players are actually going to be better than what the card makes you believe. So for example, we have Lucas Torreira here from FIFA 19, and I remember this card specifically because of how good it was and also because of his insane Footmas card. If you look at the card that he actually had at the very start of the game, he was a 78 rated non-rare center mid, and if you look at his card, it doesn't seem to be that great. However, if you look at the in-game stats, he actually has some fantastic ratings for a center defensive mid. First of all, he has a medium-high work rates, he has incredible agility and balance, his acceleration is better than his sprint speed, which in my opinion is better when it comes to defensive players and just players in general. Most of his defensive stats are much higher than 73, it's actually just the really low heading accuracy that brings it down, right? So you have 79 interceptions, 79 marking, 78 stand tackle, you have 85 stamina, you have 82 aggression. Yes, his strength is low, but at 5'6" you expect it to be. This guy right here, this card, is one of the better defensive mids to start out with for FIFA 19. However, maybe like a lot of people did not use him because if you look at his face card stats, it's not actually that good. Now on the other side, you have Sule here, who looks to have an amazing card. You have 69 pace, 85 defending, 81 physical, he's 6'5", his strength is insane. But then if you take a look at his in-game stats, specifically his pace is not actually around 69 in my opinion, with his acceleration being 52 and his agility and balance being also in the 30s. He's not going to be able to be very quick or agile, so if he gets beaten, there's absolutely no way that he's ever going to make a recovery because of his low acceleration and his low agility and balance. Now obviously he could still be good. I tried him in FIFA 20 and he was a rock at the back. He could still be good. All I'm saying is if you need certain players like smaller, quicker, agile center backs, if that's your play style, then make sure to look at your in-game stats, because someone like Sule here is not going to be that good. Tip number 3 is going to be to give yourself a reasonable yet still decent budget. This is something that I've personally struggled with in the past, where I would have 100k coins, 50k coins, and yet I would only spend around 10 or 20k of it because I didn't want to spend the other coins for whatever reason. I'm not saying you have to spend all of the coins, I'm not saying you even have to spend the vast majority of your coins, but at the same time, if you are a few weeks into FIFA and you're still rocking a 10k, 20k team, when you have the ability to use a 50k, 75k team, make sure you actually do that. Ultimate Team is literally about upgrading to the best players and the players that you genuinely want to use. So again, if you are limiting yourself, you're also going to be limiting yourself in the future. So again, it's kind of that mindset of you have to spend coins to make coins, right? If you spend some more coins on your team, yes, you're obviously not going to have as much in the bank, but then that means you'll hopefully be able to do better in division rivals or in foot champs, squad battles if you play it, and then you'll obviously be making more coins that way. Tip number 4 is going to be to try to find some players that are versatile, that will give you some options to switch around your formation and try out different tactics. So if we take a look at one of the more hyped players for FIFA 21, Robin Gosens here, you can see that on his card, he has a very balanced, all-around great card. Now, is he the best left winger? Maybe not. There are probably some left wingers out there that you can get for a little bit cheaper, that have some better pace, that have some better dribbling, but I do think he's somewhat usable at left wing. However, I personally believe that he's actually much better as a center mid, as a left mid in a 3-5-2. I'd even think you can put him at left back, especially because of his high work rates. So this Gosens card can literally play anywhere on that left side, left wing, left mid, left wing back, left back, anywhere like that. I think he could play defensive mid. I think he could play center mid. So he's obviously an extremely versatile player. So what he offers to you is that you will then be able to try out new formations in game, and you will be able to try out new tactics. So if your opponent is playing with a formation that's really hindering your formation and your tactics, you'll be able to switch your formation around very quickly, find a new formation for Gosens and for other players that you have in your team, and when that will essentially help you win the game. Tip number 5 is going to be not to just completely scrap your team after 1 or 2 bad games. Similar to the budget tip, this is something that I struggled with, where after I buy some new players that I'm really wanting to try, and after a game or 2 I just don't really find success with it, I just immediately sell them back. Not only will that limit your coins a little bit, because obviously there's that 5% sales tax that there is in FIFA, but then you may have also just come up against some really good players or against formation and tactics that do really well against your specific formation and tactics. So make sure to try to struggle through a few games. Now obviously if it's been 10, 15, 20 games and you're still not finding success, you tried a plethora of different tactics, formations, the players just don't click, then obviously that'd be one thing. But again, limiting yourself to just one game to a completely new team and a completely new formation is going to be something that you don't really want to do, and that you do want to try to struggle through a little bit. Finally, for the 6th and final tip, it is going to be to not spend all of your coins on one expensive, very good player. It's really important to make sure you spread your coins out and also spend your coins in the correct positions, so then you can have a balanced and a good team. So for example, if you see Morales here from FIFA 20, he had one of the best starter squad players because of his pace. He had good shooting, his dribbling was good, 4-star, 4-star, high, medium, lean body type, overall just a very solid card. And if you look at his price, throughout the first few days of FIFA, first week or so, he was hovering around the 10k mark, and then he finally dropped off after, 2 or 3 weeks. Now let's say after the first week or so, you have 15k to spend on your starter team. This card was 10k, and you have a starter squad budget of 15k. You should not be going to buy this player. While Morales will be scoring goals for you, while Morales would most likely make a big difference in your team, that means you would have 5,000 coins to spend on 10 other players. And when that happens, that means that you're going to definitely have to buy some players that you do not want to buy and do not want to use. Similar to that, make sure you are also distributing the coins throughout your team in a good way. So let's go back to Kevin Mbabu here. Again, a very good right back to start out for your starter team at the beginning of FIFA 20. And again, if you look at his price, it was around 10K for the first few weeks or so. Now, as I just mentioned with Morales, if you have 15K, you should not be spending 10K on one single player. But I think it's also important to make sure that you're not spending your coins on a certain position more than another. Now, as I just mentioned, it's obviously not a good thing to spend 10K on one single player when your budget is 15K, but it's also important to find out what your significant importance is for every single position. What I mean by that is that every single position for every single person, then an opponent and friend that you have when it comes to FIFA, they're going to put certain significance on certain positions more than other positions. So for me personally, the left and right back spot, while I would obviously want some of the best left and right backs, when it comes to starter teams, I'm willing to spend 500 coins or just 1,000 coins on that left and right back spot because that's not nearly as important to me as a striker or a center mid. So for example, if I had 30K from my starter squad, I would still not be spending these coins on Mbabu for me personally, because while Mbabu would still be great, that only leaves me 20K with 10 other positions that I value more highly than the right back spot. If it was, say, Morales and I had 30K, and again Morales would be 10K, that would be a little bit different because Morales could single-handedly be winning me games with his goals, with his build-up play and things like that, because again, I value that position more than the right back spot. Now obviously that's just for me personally. Every single person is going to have different value on different positions. Some people find their left back and right back spots really important. Other players are going to value their center backs the most. Other players are going to value their center mids the most. So that's going to be up to you guys to decide which positions you value the most and which positions you want to spend more coins on. So it's not just about making sure you're not spending the vast majority of your coins on one player, but it's also important to make sure that you are, again, evenly distributing your coins throughout the team. So that is going to do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you did find some of these tips helpful. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below and I'll try to answer them for you guys. But like I said, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.